And good morning, Hoosier Nation, and welcome to another disappointing edition of Hoosier Morning After. This is Hoosier Morning After Northwestern. Last night, your Indiana Hoosiers go on to lose to Northwestern 76-72, taking the record to 14-11 on the season and 6-8 in the Big Ten. Really a game of runs, close at the beginning of the game. Then in a wonderful world of IU basketball where nothing makes sense, Northwestern's best player, one of their best players, Boo Buie, goes out with 2 fouls, and they don't drop off. They actually do the opposite and go on a run against IU, taking a 8-point lead into the halftime, making IU fans wonder what kind of IU were we going to get in the second half. And we got a decent one coming out of the second half, going on a run, taking it within 3. Then Northwestern takes another run after that. But IU, again, on a run at the end, going on a 11-0 run towards the end of the game when they were down as much as 16 to bring it close again to within 3. But IU just couldn't close it out due to a lot of small factors here and there. But one thing you can definitely point to is that free throw shooting by IU. 9 points left at the free throw line for IU. Is this what we get on a week off? It was kind of a bummer to have that coming off of a week. This is how we prepared, and this is the outcome that we got. I'm your host, Chad Schwartzkopf, here with me, Martha the Mop Lady. Martha's on abbreviated schedule this morning, so we'll get to Martha quickly and get your opening thoughts on this game.
You weren't supposed to tell him I was on an abbreviated schedule. I was going to make it seem like I got really mad and just stormed off. Such is life. I think the hope was with 8 days off that, an inspired Indiana performance would be what we get. And, I had the luxury of coaching youth basketball for most of the day yesterday and then coming home and watching that. So didn't get to see a lot of good basketball yesterday, unfortunately. And, I think if somebody were to tell you that Boo Buie's first field goal didn't come until about 8 minutes and 30 seconds left in the game, and a Northwestern squad without one of their starters, Ty Berry, you'd be okay. We're in good shape, but same old story, right? I mean, the free throws just as disappointing to me as the amount of offensive rebounds that Indiana gives up. I think that speaks more to a lack of effort, a lack of engagement, a lack of that's just between your ears. And that's just, to me, that's an effort thing. Like, with Indiana's length, giving up the amount of offensive rebounds they do and not having the awareness to even after 8 days off, to understand that that's an area that we need to come out and control, right? They're just not a good free throw shooting team. I think we know that at this point, but that, I feel like the offensive rebound thing is something that they can control a little bit more. And just to give, I think Northwestern finished with 10 more field goals or 10 more field goal attempts or something like that than Indiana. And that just speaks to the amount of extra possessions you give them because of that. And it's just, give yourself no chance. With as limited as this team is offensively, especially on the perimeter, it's those are the things that you've got to come out and say, this we're going to set the tone here now, and they just don't. It's just an unengaged. It seemed like a flat assembly hall, an unengaged performance, and it just seems like everybody is just wanting this thing to be over this season, and it's really frustrating and disheartening.
It's a team that we've seen it before. We've seen that effort. We've seen them be able to do that stuff, and since we know now that the capability is there for this team, I think that only points towards one direction, and obviously. And I don't mean the band, but it's on the coaching staff now to get these guys ready and to get them to play at that level that we know that they can play. And it's reached, I'm forever the optimist, and I'm going to always try to stay optimistic on the show. I'm going to always try to stay optimistic with IU, but it's getting tested big time now with this coaching staff and specifically with Mike Woodson. When I'm not seeing changes, I don't know if it's due to stubbornness out of him, if he's just so stubborn in the way he wants to play and can't make adjustments to these guys. he just doesn't seem to be any in-game adjustments. He's very creative in the out-of-bounds plays. We see some good out-of-bounds plays that get some good looks for guys. But why don't we do that during the game? Where is that kind of play in the game? And then also just continue to be perplexed by his press conference talks. In this one, just talking about I can't get a full game together yet. It's not that's on you, coach. Look at the mirror on you. And then just the amount of calling out that he did against Malik. I don't know, Martha. I'm maybe coming over towards that side where it's just that seat is getting scorching hot there for Mike Woodson. Your thoughts?
Well, I've always appreciated your, because I feel like the last 20 years of missing the tournament more than we've made it, and just I've always had an expectation of Indiana basketball that I feel hasn't been consistently met over the last, and I don't think I'm alone there, but I think you've always led with hope, and I've always appreciated that from you, and to hear you kind of waver on some of the things that you kind of hold true, it's it just kind of speaks to where we're at as this program, and I'm with you. Just some of the comments after the game, and I think some of it is coach has been around, and he's going to be brutally honest. I think at times you appreciate that and appreciate his transparency, but there's some things that I just think you keep behind closed doors. I think everybody watched that game and knows Malik Renew had a rough game, right? It's just something you don't need to really say out loud. Malik's had a lot more good games than he's had bad games, right? So to put the spotlight on him and say that he's had a bad game, I think coach had 8 days to get him right, to get him ready, right? He had 8 days to get the entire team right. So I think a lot of that after the game, response needs to be kind of self-reflection instead of just saying, hey, my guys weren't ready, all that. It's not a good look when you're this far into the season and they're sitting where they're at. It's, you need to start doing a little bit of self-reflection and just say, and just now to be like, oh, we can start mixing it up with Mackenzie and Baco at the 4. I mean, okay, we're a little deep to be, trying new things. I mean, that should have happened a month ago, if not sooner. So yeah, to continue to hear some of that stuff is incredibly frustrating.
Well, and saying those things that crazy guys with podcasts have been saying for months, to only now be saying that. And I think where it comes, I guess with Woodson is just he is truly an NBA coach, and he's attacking this, and he's attacked this Indiana program, and especially this year, like an NBA coach, trying to call guys out like this, sticking to his system and wanting that to work, not realizing that these are young players, and you've got to do a little bit more developing with them. You've got to spell things out a little bit more for them. You've got to get your guards to know to be engaged and block out a little bit more. You've got to help them with those fundamental things. And this is a system and the way he wants to play that could work, but he's got to have the right roster for that. And that's both bed made by himself and just sure unluckiness as far as college recruiting goes. You're going to have that kind of situation happens, but it's the lack of adjustments from that continue to be a struggle for RU. But getting quickly into a few players, that I want to talk about before we lose you there, Martha. Malik, like you said, I think he did struggle in this game. I think where he is struggling overall is he just gets tunnel vision. He gets extreme tunnel vision when he's trying to go to the hoop. There were many times where he was forcing stuff. Guys were open. He could have kicked out to things like that. What were your kind of general thoughts on Malik's game?
Yeah, he looked like he did, at times last season, right? Wrong place, wrong time, but easily avoidable. And you make a good point, almost like he's got blinders on, right? Which you're always going to appreciate his intensity, right? I think it didn't seem like there were lack of effort fouls. Like the one, he just, I think he was trailing his defender a little bit and didn't see either the guy setting a screen or the guy standing there playing and ran right into him. I can't remember if that's the foul he fouled out on or. He had at least 2 of the 5 were really, really super cheap and avoidable. So, for a guy that's done a really solid job of, because that was his biggest weakness last year was not being able to stay on the court because of those types of situations. So I think he's done a really solid job of getting better in that area. And then, yesterday he's just, he missed some buckets at the rim that he normally makes. And, I know coach called him out for not seeing McKenzie open on the wing. I don't tend to get too frustrated at that one because, Malik by far, I think, has been consistently our best offensive option. So if he's got the ball down on the low block, I'm fine with him putting it up. But, 9 points from him is just not going to get it done for us, right? And I think a lot of that because we couldn't keep him on the court. So, yeah, rough game for him, but I think consistently he's been our best weapon. So I don't get too down on it. You've got to be able with a talented team like Indiana has, you've got to be able to counter those bad games from one guy, right? And we're just at this point really unable to do so, across the board. So yeah, it's a frustrating game for Malik, but no doubt that he's going to bounce back.
Well, and that goes back to, I like that coach recognizes that he needs to teach him to kick it out in those situations like we all are screaming for. But the press conference and telling us is not the way. Do it in practice. Show that you're teaching him that. And let us see it in the next game. Let us see it on Wednesday night. Don't try to tell us that that's what you're going to do in the press conference. Gabe Cupps was an interesting one. I wanted to say, I was very nervous at the start of the game, with the coaching staff's decision to put him on Boo Buie. Obviously, Boo Buie's a very good guard, is very good at extending his elbow and pushing off, especially on Trey Galloway, like last year. Thank goodness he did get called. I was very excited to see that call. But again, overall, I think Cupps did a great job. I think he struggled at some points, but the difference in Gabe Cupps a couple months ago would not have been able to handle Boo Buie. And it's good to see that at least part of his game move along. And also I will shout out his two catch and make threes. That was really good to see. He is actually right now averaging 38% from three on obviously a very small volume set, but good to see that some of that's coming along. And at least his development is heading in the right direction. Your thoughts on Cupps?
Yeah, and I'm going to jump off after these thoughts and leave it to you. I agree wholeheartedly. Obviously, Gabe's had a I think kind of a rough stretch. I mean, he's been asked to defend a lot of really, really good perimeter players, and at times he's kind of been exposed a little bit as a freshman. I think we're going to look back, a couple years down the road and be very, very thankful that Gabe Cupps got the experience this year that he got. Right? I mean, it's a tough situation to ask. He's kind of a true point guard, right? He's not kind of a modern point guard that I wish we had more of on our roster. I mean, I think there's a spot for Gabe Cupps on every single team, but he's being put in a position where we're not performing offensively across the board on the perimeter, and so the hope is that he can go out and just score a bunch of points. I don't think that's necessarily ever going to be Gabe Cupps, but he's going to get opportunities to score. And I thought yesterday you made a great point that he did a much better job looking to score. He had those, he's one of two players that made multiple 3-pointers on the team. And he looked ready to shoot. And those catch and shoot threes that he had, they looked really, really good. I know Galloway found him over on the wing once, and it looked like a shot he should be taking, if that makes sense. So just a guy you hope that down the stretch continues to build more confidence. I think again that this experience he's getting this year is going to be invaluable as we move forward. So yeah, it's a tough ask for him to go out and really guard some of the best team, or some of the teams we're playing's best players, best perimeter players. So appreciate what he's given us, and glad that he had a little bit of success yesterday. So thanks, Chad. Good luck the rest of the way. I'll be
Thank you, Martha. Thank you for coming in. Enjoy your celebrations of President's Day. Get your wig on, your powdered wig on.
That's right. And I will see you post Nebraska, Lord willing.
Yes. All right. Thank you, Martha.
Hey, bud.
So looking at, I really like, and I think Martha hit something on the head very well there, is that this is something we're going to love looking back on. It's a true trial by fire. Obviously, we would, if this season went the way it should have, and the way we would have wanted it to, this would have been a season where Gabe Cupps could have come along a little bit slower, could have been peppered in with Xavier Johnson and played a little bit behind him and learned and slower. But again, it's going to be trial by fire. And I thought because of his mentality and the type of player and the work ethic that he has, just as a person in general, he's been able to handle this type of situation really well, and it's going to pay dividends again in the future. So great to see that, at least, and great to see his game come along again. Forever optimism and hope, guys. I'm sorry. I'm gonna bring a little bit of it. I'm gonna try to be as positive as I can and find some of the goods that we can out of this, because wallowing in the depths is not not good for our psyche or Hoosier Nation overall. We do enough of that. But Mackenzie, I thought, had a very interesting game. Second half, well, obviously was a lot better. I thought we're seeing him develop and be a little bit more bullish on the offensive end of the court. So I like what I've seen from him offensively, at least, trying to get downhill and everything, and finished with 20 points, 6 for 11 from the field, 3 and 6 from 3. So did most of his production, honestly, in the second half as well. Just had 1 point in the first half, had 19 in the second half. Nothing glaring wise on the defense side for him. Obviously, that's been something that we hark on with his game overall, but didn't really see anything like that struggle for him. So I thought a pretty good game for him. Ware, I thought, had a good game. Obviously, he's a big guy. He's kind of silenced any sort of that physicality questions. I always think Northwestern's big man down there, I forget his name right now, but plays a little bit dirtier of a game. I think he fouled a lot more than was really truly called for, but I thought Ware handled that pretty well. Pretty even scoring, 10 points in the first half, 12 in the second, 22 overall. Finished 10 of 14 from the field. Was a little confounding that we went to those dump down dunks by him when we were trying to get baskets late in that game, but I guess it's one way to do it when they're guarding more of the 3-point. You can go and get the quick 2 because they're trying to play for the 3-point shot. I think that might have been some of the reasoning behind that, but you're not going to really close that gap when then you foul and they go back on the other end and make those shots. Trey Galloway as well, I thought, had a decent game. I think he continues to fight. He's also one that I am kind of one of those players that IU usually has that you get frustrated with, that is just kind of getting squandered playing on this roster, because you'd love to see him on a team where he can play more of a supportive role and doesn't have to carry the load like he does. But probably a record, I think, assist game for him with 12 assists. A lot of those came at the end, obviously, in those little dump down dunks that we got late in the game after about 3 minutes or less left in the game. Didn't get as many points for himself, continues to struggle a little bit shooting wise. So that's something that I still am shocked by with him. Would have liked to see more of the 2-man game that we have seen him play with either Malik or Ware, kind of doing his little curl screen and his little teardrop kind of shot, his little drop shot that he likes to do. So would have liked to see a little bit more scoring from him. And again, overall on the bench, not much contribution from the bench wise, just 6 points from the bench. Some interesting subbing, and really confounded me is a lot of good play, a season high from CJ Gunn in the Purdue game, and a lot of good talk in this week off from the coaching staff for CJ Gunn and what he's done, and yet he only gets 10 minutes in this game. Would have liked to see more of a run for him. Would have liked to see him play a little bit more in this game, and coaching staff, for whatever reason it was, didn't give him that run. So that's frustrating to me overall. Now, looking at some stats, obviously, as Martha alluded to earlier in the show, he talked about Boo Buie. If you look at when he made his shots or his scoring, and then you couple that with IU scoring 50% on this game, 33 from 3. Obviously, 33 is not great, but it's good for IU this year. You see those stats and you think IU handled this game and won this game. But it's those few other stats that kind of glare at IU and are the reason. I mean, you can't shoot 57%. You can't leave so many points at the free throw line like that and expect to win, especially a close one. When it's close like that, right there simply is the difference. Also, defensive rebounds, giving off offensive rebounds for Northwestern. We can't have that. We can't have a team that is not known for offensive rebounds, getting those second chance points, getting those opportunities, bailing them out after we played some pretty good defense for numerous times in the game to just have a mental block at that point. There was one play in specific that Bubui took a 3-point shot, and you could see that he knew after he took that shot that it was going to come up short or that he wasn't going to make it. And he's immediately running to the basket. And whoever was on him at that point, I don't know if it was Galloway or Cups, had that mental block there after playing some pretty good defense and forcing a tough three from him. Didn't box him out, didn't get a body on him, didn't disrupt him getting to the basket there to get that rebound. And he gets the rebound and puts it right back up. So it's those little things that add up so much for IU. Turnovers were a little rough. We finished with 11. Obviously, it got cleaned up in the half. So let me see if I can see what the difference was. Yeah, so second half when we were playing a little bit better, only 3 turnovers compared to 8 in the first half. Fouls were a little bit of trouble. I think that was due to frustration with having Gabe fouled out. Obviously, he was playing on Bubui. He was playing a tough assignment, so a lot of fouls were going to come for him. Malik as well. I think that just goes down to when he's having those frustrating offensive games. That's where he loses and has mental lapses on the defensive side. Obviously, fouling out in the weirdest way with that collision on the dribble handoff, that was just shows his frustration. That you can't make those mental block mistakes like you did in there. So it's interesting. This team just continues to confound me. I mean, there continues to be little improvements individually. So we at least have had these things throughout the season where we can point to different little improvements that the individual players have made throughout the season, where being tougher despite a lot of the question marks about his motor and all that going into this season. Mackenzie getting over the freshman hump, struggling early, defensively looking lost and everything. Malik's second year jump has been a great question that's been answered and everything, just the small things, but just the team as a whole has not improved. And for me, despite my overwhelming attempts at being optimistic, I'm at that point now where I'm questioning that staff, and I'm beginning to feel a lot like Calbert Chaney did when the camera was on him during this game. And I think Jennifer, you captured that picture well. If you need to see it, go to Jennifer's Twitter at Jennifer40IU. You can see that there. Chaney just looked. I mean, that's how I've looked watching these games. That's, I'm sure, how we all feel internally, just confounded by it and frustrated by it. And I don't know if that's where that lands with him. If he's struggling to get in touch with these players and to get things to stick with them, if there's a frustration with the boss above him and what is happening with him. But it's just, it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good what's going on the court, and it doesn't feel right for us. So do I have answers for this? Do I have answers for this team and what needs to happen? Not necessarily. We've had games where we've played that tough game. I would say if IU can figure out what we did for the Ohio State game, if they can look back towards that, if they can look back to the physicality, they can look back to that effort, that dog that they had in that game, that's where you try to get back to. And that's where you as a coaching staff look at the team and you see the strengths that they had in that, and you build on that. You look at the lineup choices that you're making. And yes, I understand Ware and Malik are your best players. They are the most efficient players, but is that best for the team as a whole out there to be running with those two together as much as we do? I don't know. That's a tough question because in the recent games when Malik has fouled out or we've had trouble and we've had to go with a smaller lineup, those have been more productive. So maybe it's time for the coaching staff to do that, to try that and to have to make that tough decision. But things have to be tried. Bench has to be used as a motivator when guys aren't playing. We have to We have to figure it out. And whether that leads to something good for this year, or whether that is something that just feeds into development for follow-up years now for IU, because obviously it's going to take a miracle and some amazing things to happen should we have any chance, which now they look slim to none at playing in any sort of postseason situation. Now, as Coach Tonsoni pointed out last night on Assembly Call, this is very much a similar pattern to Woodson's first year, as far as where we are within the year, where our record is and everything. And that year, IU found something towards the end, and they surged, and we made it to the tournament by the skin of our teeth. I'm not a bracketologist. I can't say that that's possible again this year, but at least what that would do, a run like that, if it doesn't put us in the tournament, would at least allow us to restore a little bit of hope. And at least cool off the seat a little bit and quiet some of the noise and allow for this coaching staff one more year to show us what they can do and how they can right the ship and how they can make things better. So I hope that happens. Again, I'm going to continue to be that forever optimist for this program and for the cards that we are dealt, both players and coaching staff, and what we have for IU. So IU plays again, like we've said, Wednesday night against Nebraska. This is going to be a big game for IU. Obviously, we need to respond, quick turnaround. We don't have that week off like we have had recently. So big one for us. It's a late game, the 8:30 p.m. game. And Nebraska is going to come in cooking because they are sitting there on the bubble. They are sitting there hoping for tournament berth, and a win against IU at home is a great quad one win for them. So they are going to be coming out all engines firing away. So we've got to be ready for that, and we'll see what kind of team comes out. And I'm going to tune in, frustrated or not, and we will see what kind of thing we get on the court. But that'll do it for this edition of Hoosier Morning After. Thanks for being with me. Thanks for joining me on this wonderful President's Day. Go out there, try to make it a good one if you can, the best you can. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at General Chadwick. There you can find out more information about the show, when we're going to go live and everything. Follow Martha at The Mop Lady. Thank you for those there in the chat with us. As always, Jennifer, Scott, the Bison. Good to see you, the Bison, around recently with us live in the chat. We'll be back again the morning after the next game. Thank you for being with us. Until then, go out there, have yourself a wonderful day, and let's go Hoosiers.